So what really makes a software engineer great? I mean, we all hear the stereotypes, but what does the research actually say? In this explainer, we're going to dig in and decode the 53 attributes of excellence. And this comes straight from the experts who are in the trenches every single day. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle that big question: what does great even mean? Then, we'll dive into the internal mindset, what we're calling the inner world of a top-tier engineer. After that, we'll look at how that inner world translates to their outward impact on their teams and the products they build. And finally, we'll tie it all together. Okay, let's jump right in. Part 1, the great question. It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but what are we really talking about here? Let's find out.
Let's just start with that basic question. When I say great software engineer, what's the first thing that pops into your head?
Is it that classic image, the lone coder, fingers flying across the keyboard who's mastered like a dozen different programming languages? I mean, sure, technical skill is definitely part of it, but the real story? It's so much deeper than that. To get to that deeper story, researchers at Microsoft did something pretty smart. They went straight to the source. They sat down and had in-depth interviews with 59 of their most experienced engineers. And we're not just talking about senior devs here. We're talking about architects and technical fellows, many of whom have been in this game for over 25 years.
And what they uncovered was, honestly, kind of staggering. They didn't just find 5 or 10 things. Nope, they identified 53 distinct attributes that define what it means to be great in this field. And to make sense of all that, they came up with this really powerful model.
And here it is. This framework is just brilliant in its simplicity. It splits all those attributes into 2 main buckets. Over on the left, you've got the internal world. That's all about the engineer's personal character, how they think, how they make decisions. And on the right, you have the external world, which is all about their impact on their teammates and, of course, on the software itself. We're going to use this inside-out structure to guide us through the rest of this.
So let's start with that foundation. Part 2, the inner world. This is the stuff that everything else is built on.
Okay, so the first huge personal trait is this idea of improving. And this is way more than just lifelong learning. It's about having this deep-seated dissatisfaction with the status quo, with things just being good enough. Great engineers they're wired to constantly look for ways to improve themselves, the product, and everything and everyone around them.
And this quote from one of the engineers just nails why this is so non-negotiable. As they put it, this field is moving so incredibly fast. If you're happy with what you already know, you're going to be out of date in just a couple of years. It's kind of like you have to keep running just to stay in the same place.
All right, next up is a really critical decision-making skill, the ability to see both the forest and the trees. This is all about mental agility. It's about being able to zoom way down into the nitty-gritty technical details one minute, and then, in the very next breath, zoom all the way out to see the 30,000-foot view, the big picture, the company's vision. And this quote gets to the heart of it. It's not just about seeing things from different perspectives. The real magic, the real challenge, is being able to take all of that in and then make a smart set of choices, a set of trade-offs. It's a really complex mental juggling act that they have to perform all the time.
So, we've looked inside at the foundation. But how does all that internal stuff actually show up in the real world? Well, that brings us to part 3, the outward impact. This is where greatness stops being an idea and starts affecting people and the product.
One of the most powerful things a great engineer does is create what the researchers call a safe haven. This is all about psychological safety. It means creating an environment where your teammates feel totally secure enough to try things, to mess up, to fail, and, this is the most important part, to learn from those failures without any fear of being blamed or punished.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? Learning from failure is a wonderful sort of thing, but that whole process just grinds to a halt if you're worried about getting smacked upside the head. Great engineers act as a shield for their team, protecting them from that fear.
Okay, now let's talk about the work itself, the actual software. The product of a great engineer is so often described with one word: elegant. And elegant doesn't mean complicated or clever for the sake of being clever. It's actually the complete opposite. It's a design that's so simple, so intuitive, that someone else can look at it and just get it, almost instantly.
I love this quote as a description of what elegance feels like. There's no extra stuff. It's a huge sign that the really difficult work, the deep, hard thinking, happened way before anyone even thought about writing a line of code.
Another key quality is the ability to anticipate future needs. Building software that doesn't just solve today's problem, but is ready for the likely problems of tomorrow. But this one is interesting because it comes with a real tension.
Because here's the other side of that coin. As this engineer points out, trying to architect something today that's going to survive 20 years from now, nobody's that smart. And this is a real, legitimate debate in the field. Do you try to future-proof everything, which can be expensive and slow you down? Or do you build for today and just accept that you'll have to constantly refactor and adapt as new requirements come in? The truth is, even the experts don't always agree on where to draw that line.
So, we've gone inside the engineer's mind, we've seen their impact on the outside world. Now for our final section, let's bring it all together and uncover the big central truth at the heart of all this research.
And here's the most important takeaway, the thing you should remember if you remember nothing else. Great software engineering is not just a technical discipline. It is fundamentally socio-technical. What does that mean? It means it's a blend, a fusion of deep, hardcore technical skill with equally deep and sophisticated people skills. You just can't be truly great without mastering both sides of that equation.
So, what does this all mean for you? Well, if you're just starting out, think of these attributes as a North Star, a roadmap for your career. And hey, use them to see if a team you might join actually values these things. If you're a manager, your #1 job is to create a culture where these attributes can actually grow and thrive. That's how you attract and keep great people. And for absolutely everyone, the lesson is crystal clear. Your ability to learn and adapt is way more critical than any single technical skill you have today.
And that brings us to one last question, and this one's for you to think about. We've explored this really rich model of excellence, everything from creating safe havens for your team to seeing both the forest and the trees. So after all that, which one of these 53 attributes are you going to focus on next?